Hello, and welcome to this instructional video on General Education Alignment Maps. The General Education Alignment Map template was first introduced in January of 2026 during in-service, and this map is designed to make it easier and very clear to see the alignment between the general education outcomes, the courses in which they are embedded, the specific course, in which the instructor derives student performance data from, and then the actual assessment, so the assignment that is used to get that data. Now, when it comes to getting the data, a lot of that depends on the general education rubrics, which were stripped down to the ground and rebuilt over the course of summer 25 and then refined several different times. Faculty are very familiar with those at this point, and the hope is that they are in Blackboard very soon, or likely now. It just kind of depends on when you're watching this video. As of recording this video, they have been sent out to Marshall's instructional design team. We are hoping they're in there soon. But again, you have copies in your email and likely also seen through a faculty council as well. But before they can be used, it is important that we have concrete alignment between the outcome, the courseware in which that outcome is being assessed, and then the assignment being used to get that student performance data. For example, we don't want to be utilizing the cultural intelligence rubric for an assignment that actually doesn't measure cultural intelligence. So this map helps to make that alignment as concrete as possible, and also helps to illustrate a web of how general education outcomes are embedded throughout the entirety of a given program. Now, what you're seeing on your screen is the directions and FAQs document for the general education alignment maps. You should have a copy of this in your email by the time you're seeing this video, because I'll be sending it out right after this video. And I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the different sections of it. So again, we'll go ahead and start with the purpose, and I'll make this even a little bigger. There we go. All right. So, to further solidify alignment of the general education outcomes across all programs, general education alignment maps ask faculty to create connections between the gen ed outcomes, the courses in which these outcomes are embedded, and the assignments used to assess student learning with regard to those outcomes. This document provides step-by-step instructions for the completion of a gen ed alignment map. A video tutorial is also available here, and of course there'll be a link after the video has been created, and on the CETL's YouTube channel. It'll be available in our larger videos list. I am also going to be putting it in the assessment resources playlist, so you'll have access to it in a couple different places. In terms of relevant materials you're going to need, the first of which is the template. So to make this as easy as possible, you do have a template that you can just plug things into. I have a Google Sheets version available right here, so you can link to that here in this document when you have access to it, but you will also be sent the Excel form that is blank. So that is what the template is going to look like. Of course, I'm going to walk you through these individual sections. I'm going to walk you through an example here in a moment, but as you can see, you've got your different columns. So you'll put in your program name, your name. You can see all of the gen ed outcomes are already listed. And then you get into the other portions of it. So those courses where gen ed outcomes are embedded. Let's say that, for example, we're looking at something like written communication. Maybe there are 4 or 5 different courses in your program where you assess written communication, or where at the very least written communication is checked off on the syllabus, right? It is embedded in that course. You would list those courses in this section. Next, you list the course or courses used to assess that general education outcome. So let's say that you've got like 6 courses in which written communication is embedded, but your gen ed data comes from your capstone course. You would list your capstone here. And then finally, in our last column over here, we have the assessment or assignment. So what are you actually using to get that information? It's good that we have the course, but what's that final capstone project? So that is the template. And again, you'll have a copy of that in your email. Now, once you have completed your general education alignment map, you will need to send it to the following: Sarah Dick, the chair of the assessment committee, oh my goodness, no, don't send it to me. The chair of the general education committee, Casey McGee, and then please CC your dean. on the email as well. These will end up in the SharePoint site, and as I'm recording this video, I'm not sure who has access to the site and who does not, but they will all go to one specific place. We want to make sure that anybody who needs access to that file has it. So again, please send it to Sarah, please send it to the chair of the Gen Ed committee, which is Casey McGee, and then CC your dean in that email as well. Okay, and then we have step-by-step directions, the first of which just explains what you're going to see when you open that template, which I already showed you. So you've got those first 2 lines where you include the program and your full name, so first and last name. And then after that, you'll see those individual columns. So your Gen Ed outcomes, the courses where those Gen Ed outcomes are embedded, the courses used to assess the Gen Ed outcomes, and then the assessment or assignment that is utilized to get that information. Each general education outcome will have its own corresponding section, as you saw. In the column labeled All Courses Where General Education Outcomes Are Embedded, list all of the program courses in which each outcome is embedded. For example, if written communication is embedded in 4 courses, according to your course syllabi, which are a really good resource for this, if you pull up your course syllabi, and that's what we did when the example was created that you're going to see in a moment, all of the program syllabi were printed, and we looked at that Gen Ed chart to see, okay, well, where are we checking our boxes? So look at your boxes in your syllabi. So for example, if written communication is embedded in 4 courses, they should all be listed in the written communication section. In the column labeled Courses Used to Assess General Education Outcomes, name the course used to extract assessment data pertaining to that outcome. Or if you use multiple courses, you can list multiple. For instance, if written communication is embedded in several places, but the primary assessment data comes from the capstone course, you're going to list the capstone course. Think about this in the context of your program assessment report. Which course are you assessing? And then where are you getting that data from? That's what we want. Finally, in the column labeled Assessment/Assignment, you're going to describe the assignment used to assess that student learning data. So please note that words like assessment and exam are fairly broad. You want to make sure that you're providing contextual information, parameters, etc. that help to strengthen the identified alignment. And you can think of this as being similar to the discussion of the assessment measure in your course and program assessment reports. So everyone is already really good at talking about what kind of assignment is being utilized to obtain that student performance data. You're just going to do the exact same thing here. And of course, we have frequently asked questions. So, can I see an example? 100%. We have a completed example linked here, so you'll see that when you get this document, but I can also go ahead and show it to you here in this video. So here is the example for the Early Childhood Education General Education Alignment Map. So we have our program name, and we have our faculty name. I am going to make this a little bigger as well. Of course, bear in mind, it is Excel, so it's going to be a little wonky. But here we can see we've got our general education outcomes over here. So let's go ahead and start with section 1. We can see that they're bolded, right? Section 1 is communication. In this communication section, we can see that we've got written and oral, right? Because those are kind of together in the way that we currently have them classified. And we can see all of the courses in which communication, as it appears right now, A and B, are assessed. So we've got, for example, we've got EDUC 101, 220, 225, 228, etc. So you can see the list, right? So let's go ahead and look at what's going on with oral communication. So again, oral communication is the student will communicate verbal and nonverbal messages appropriate to the audience and situation. So if we're looking at our list, 225, 228, 240, etc., and then we come over here to column C, we will see that the data on student performance for this outcome is coming from 228, the disability project presentation. And then we have a breakdown of what that assignment is. So this reads, students are required to research and assign disability from chapter 5 of the course textbook. Then, students compose a research paper by focusing on instructional strategies that promote the development of young children with special needs. Lastly, students create a PowerPoint presentation addressing their research findings. Presentations are given and students are graded on verbal and nonverbal skills such as eye contact, volume, engagement, etc. So again, if we're going from this first column all the way to the end, we figure out, all right, here are our Gen Ed outcomes. Here are all of the courses in which they are assessed. Here is the course that we utilize to really get the bulk of that data. Here is the assignment used to get that data. Now, does that mean that if we're looking at these courses, right, well, these aren't listed over here, does that mean they're not really being assessed? No, that's not the case, but EDUC 228 is a really good place to get that data specifically. Should oral communication be being assessed consistently in all of these courses? Yes, and it is. But the data being reported, the course that is being used to get that student performance data, that's the one that we want noted right here. That's going to be that primary focus. And we see that throughout the entirety of the example. Of course, you will have access to this example. I'm not going to read the entire thing to you. We'll go ahead and look at one other section. Here we see critical thinking. The student will use appropriate evidence or sound reasoning to make a judgment. And that is assessed in EDUC 120, 295, and 101. The data will be derived from 120, the ethical dilemma, and then we have a breakdown of what the ethical dilemma assignment is. Now, this is pretty similar to the program alignment map, right? If you completed the program alignment map, you are doing something very similar. In fact, this template was designed based upon the program alignment map. It's good to go ahead and be able to illustrate what this alignment looks like, how we are getting this data, and being able to, in a way, justify that alignment. If we're saying, yes, I assess these gen ed outcomes in these courses, then okay, let's be able to see where that assessment is happening. What does that assignment look like? How does it get that data? So again, you will have a copy of this example and of this template when you get this video as well. Do I need to have at least one general education outcome in every course? Yes, you do. And then finally, how often should the map be updated? If you change an assessment method, right, like one of those methods listed in the map, or an outcome alignment. Let's say that you tweak some courses, you add a course, a course is sunset, etc. The map will need to be updated, and you should be able to do that in SharePoint. If you are not able to do that in SharePoint, you will pull up your copy of the map that you've got saved on your personal device or on your flash drive or wherever you have it. You can update it and then send that to the chair of the General Education Committee, and then make sure to CC your dean as well. I'm going to hesitate to say sending that to Sarah, just because if someone's watching this video in 3 years, that might not be the case, right? That may go to somebody else at that point, but you would want to send it to the chair of the Gen Ed Committee and then to CC your dean as well. So those are the instructions, the template, and the example that exist for the General Education Alignment Maps. Now, this will also be discussed at Faculty Council. I am recording this before Faculty Council. But if you are watching this well after this initiative was started, then by all means, you can reach out to the General Education Committee for questions. You can touch base with the Assessment Committee. You can also ask your respective chair or dean. There are a lot of different people out there who would be happy to assist you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.